Hello sleepy friends. Tonight, we journey to the garden of Hesperides, a common tale of nymphs, golden apples, and twilight magic, told in a way that invites deep, peaceful sleep. Before we begin, if you enjoy peaceful storytelling and medieval dreams, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. But only if it truly helps you rest. That's what we're here for. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from, and what time it is for you. It's always beautiful seeing how far this sleepy little world reaches. Now, fluff your pillow, dim the lights, and maybe grab a cozy blanket or turn on a fan for that soft nighttime hum. Let's slow down, breathe deep, and drift gently into tonight's sleep story together. Long, long ago, beyond the hills and seas, in a land touched by magic and mystery, there was a secret garden. This garden was unlike any other. It was called the Garden of the Hesperides. It was a place of calm and beauty, where the sun's last golden rays would gently rest at the edge of the sky. In this garden, the trees stood tall and proud, their branches heavy with glowing, golden apples. These apples were special. They were not just any fruit, but gifts from the gods themselves, shimmering softly like tiny suns caught in their branches. The garden was hidden far away, beyond the lands of men and gods. It was watched over by the Hesperides, 3 gentle sisters, whose voices were like soft whispers on a warm breeze. Their names were Heracles, Erythea, and Hesperia. They cared for the garden with all their hearts, tending the trees with love and kindness, making sure the golden apples remained safe. Near the garden lived a mighty guardian, a great dragon named Ladon. But Ladon was not a fierce beast in the way you might think. Instead, he was calm and steady, with scales that shimmered like the night sky filled with stars. His eyes were warm and watchful, and he moved quietly through the garden, making sure no harm would come to this magical place. Every day, the sisters and Ladon would bask in the peacefulness of the garden. The air smelled sweet with the scent of flowers and ripe fruit. Soft birds sang lullabies to the leaves, and the gentle rustling of branches was like a soothing song. The golden apples were said to bring happiness and long life to anyone who tasted them, but they were never picked by anyone but the gods. The Hesperides knew their importance and kept them safe, sharing their gentle light only with the stars and the moon. One day, a hero named Heracles came to the garden. He was kind and brave, with a heart full of courage and hope. Heracles had a task to complete, one that the gods had set for him, to bring back some of the golden apples. But as he entered the garden, he did not want to hurt the peaceful sisters or the gentle dragon. Heracles spoke softly to the Hesperides and to Ladon, explaining his mission. He asked if there might be a way to take the apples without harm. The sisters smiled kindly and spoke words as soft as a lullaby, telling Heracles about the magic of patience and respect. Heracles sat down under the shade of the golden trees, listening to the peaceful sounds of the garden. The gentle breeze caressed his face, and the warmth of the sun wrapped around him a soft blanket. As he rested, he learned that sometimes the greatest strength is found in kindness and understanding. Slowly, with the blessing of the Hesperides and the watchful eyes of Ladon, Heracles reached for the golden apples. The garden glowed even brighter that day, as if the apples themselves were happy to be shared with someone who truly cared. And so, Heracles carried the golden apples back, not just as a gift for the gods, but as a reminder that even in the greatest adventures, there is always room for gentleness and peace. As the sun set behind the hills, the garden settled into quiet dreams, the soft light of the stars twinkling through the leaves. The Hesperides smiled softly, and Ladon curled up like a great, shimmering star, guarding the garden with love until the dawn. As the days passed in the quiet, magical garden, the Hesperides sisters would often gather beneath the soft, golden light of the sun as it began to fade. Each sister had a special way of caring for the garden. Egil, whose name meant brightness, loved to sing to the trees. Her voice was like the gentle hum of bees on a warm summer day, and the golden apples seemed to shine even more brightly when she sang. She would hum soft melodies that made the leaves sway gently, and the fruit would grow rounder and fuller, glowing with a warm light. Erythea, the second sister, was known for her laughter. Her laughter was light and tinkling like tiny bells, and it filled the garden with happiness. When she laughed, the flowers seemed to bloom wider, and the air smelled sweeter. She would dance between the trees with delicate steps, her fingertips brushing softly over petals and leaves, helping the garden grow with joy. Hesperia, the youngest sister, was calm and thoughtful. She loved to watch the stars appear in the night sky, and she often told stories to the trees about the moon's gentle journeys across the heavens. Her quiet words were like a gentle breeze, bringing comfort and peace to the garden as the world settled into sleep. Together, the sisters kept the garden alive with their songs, laughter, and stories. The golden apples hung like little suns, lighting the garden softly, even in the darkest nights. Ladon, the dragon, moved slowly and peacefully among the trees. Though many thought a dragon would roar loudly or breathe fire, Ladon was gentle and quiet. His long tail brushed softly across the grass, and his shimmering scales reflected the colors of the garden, gold, green, and the soft pinks of the flowers. Sometimes, Ladon would curl around the base of a tree, resting his great head on his paws, his eyes half closed as if watching a dream unfold. He knew the garden's secrets and the quiet magic that made it so special. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and purple, Heracles approached the garden again. This time, he came slowly and softly, carrying no weapons or armor, only respect and hope. The sisters greeted him with gentle smiles. They could see the kindness in his eyes and the warmth in his heart. Egil sang a soft melody to welcome him, and Erythea's laughter rang like silver bells through the air. Hesperia whispered a story about the stars, telling Heracles that sometimes the greatest journeys are those taken with patience. Heracles sat with the sisters beneath the glowing trees. The golden apples hung above, glowing softly like lanterns in the dusk. The air was filled with calm, and the soft rustle of leaves was like a lullaby. As the night grew deeper, Heracles felt a peace he had never known before. He realized that the garden was not just a place of magic, but a place of gentle strength, where kindness and respect were the true treasures. With the sisters' blessing, Heracles gently picked a few golden apples. Ladon watched quietly, but with a soft glow in his eyes, as if saying that the garden's magic was safe in kind hands. Heracles thanked the sisters and Ladon, promising to carry their lesson of gentleness and patience wherever he went. As he left the garden, the soft light of the golden apples seemed to shine even brighter, a quiet promise of hope and peace. The garden of the Hesperides settled once more into its peaceful slumber, the stars twinkling gently overhead as the sisters and Ladon rested, ready to watch over their magical world until the next gentle dawn. Far beyond the mountains, wrapped in clouds, across rivers that sparkled like melted silver, and through forests where the leaves whispered secrets, the garden of the Hesperides slept quietly under the blanket of stars. But in this garden, even sleep was full of life. The trees dreamed too, not of faraway lands, but of soft winds, golden sun, and the laughter of the Hesperides. Each morning, before the sun fully woke the world, the garden would stir to the sounds of fluttering wings and rustling branches. The golden apples, still dewy and glowing, hung like warm stars among the leaves. Birds with feathers painted in shades of coral, violet, and emerald flitted from tree to tree, humming soft songs that no one had ever written, but everyone understood. One such morning, Egil walked barefoot through the garden's winding paths. The soft grass kissed her feet, and the breeze carried a sweet fragrance, a blend of wild jasmine, honey, and something else, something ancient and kind. She paused beneath one of the tallest trees, its bark smooth like polished stone, and reached up to gently touch one of the golden apples. She didn't pluck it. No one ever did without reason. Instead, she whispered softly to it, a little song of thanks. For in the garden, everything was alive in its own quiet way. The apples listened, the trees listened, even the wind listened. Her sisters joined her soon after. Eurythea carried a basket woven from silver leaves and filled with petals and berries. She was preparing to make tea for them, a tradition they shared every morning under the canopy of golden branches. Hesperia followed, holding a rolled-up scroll, one of her stories written during the quiet night. They settled together on a large, flat stone that always stayed warm, no matter the season. Eurythea began to brew the tea using petals that shimmered faintly in the morning light. The scent was soft and comforting, like dreams that had just begun to form. Hesperia unrolled her scroll and read in a voice so gentle that even the leaves leaned closer to hear. Her story was about a silver fox that could vanish into moonlight and the turtle who waited 100 years just to see one special star. As she spoke, the garden seemed to hold its breath. Even Ladon, the great dragon, opened one eye and listened from where he lay coiled near the edge of a pool. The pool was quiet and round, hidden deep within the garden. Its water reflected not only the sky above, but dreams and memories too. Sometimes, when the sisters looked into the pool, they could see visions, not of the future, but of distant places where people hoped, loved, and waited. The garden, in its quiet wisdom, always showed what was needed most. On one such afternoon, Hesperia leaned over the water. In its surface, she saw a young boy tending a small olive tree. He was alone, but determined, watering it every day with great care. She smiled softly, and with a wave of her hand, she whispered to the wind, asking it to carry rain to that distant place. That night, a soft shower touched the boy's garden, and his olive tree reached joyfully toward the sky. The garden of the Hesperides was filled with little wonders like this, kindnesses carried by wind, love whispered to the stars, and golden light that never faded. But few knew of these things. The world outside the garden was full of noise and rush, where people often forgot how to listen to the stillness. But here, time moved slowly, and even silence had its own song. Heracles, after leaving the garden with the golden apples, carried the peace of the place with him. Wherever he went, people noticed the calm in his voice and the gentleness in his eyes. He spoke of the garden not as a place of conquest, but as a gift, a secret sanctuary where strength was not shown through battles, but through quiet patience and care. He remembered the dragon Ladon, not as a monster, but as a guardian who understood the language of the stars. He remembered the sisters' laughter and songs, and the way they looked at the world as something to love, not to conquer. And though Heracles had many more tasks ahead, none stayed with him as deeply as the memory of the garden. Sometimes, late at night, when the world outside was silent and the stars blinked slowly above, he would close his eyes and remember the golden trees, the soft footsteps of the sisters, and the hush of the wind whispering through the leaves. Back in the garden, the seasons never rushed. Spring unfolded slowly like a silk ribbon. Summer glowed gently, never harsh. Autumn brought golden leaves that danced as they fell, and even winter came not with cold, but with quiet, a soft blanket of rest. The sisters celebrated each season with small rituals. In spring, they planted wishes under the soil, believing that kind thoughts would bloom into flowers. In summer, they sang to the sky and let butterflies carry messages of joy. In autumn, they gave thanks to the trees and shared stories of what they had learned. And in winter, they rested more, reading poems and sipping warm teas made from dried blossoms. One winter, as snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky, rare and beautiful in the garden, Ladon curled around the golden apple tree at the center of it all. The snow melted on his warm scales, and he hummed a deep, slow tune, not with his mouth, but with his whole being. It was a song of time, of protection, of the eternal rhythm of growth and rest. The sisters sat beside him, wrapped in cloaks woven from starlight and memory. They sipped their tea and listened, adding their own voices to his song. Together, they sang not for the world to hear, but for the garden itself, to remind it that it was loved, and safe, and never alone. And so, the garden of the Hesperides continued its quiet life, untouched by storms, unhurried by time. A sanctuary hidden beyond the edges of maps and the noise of the world. If you ever find yourself still and quiet enough, in the hush between thoughts, or in the softness of a dream, you might hear the song of the garden too. A gentle melody of leaves, laughter, and light. And maybe, just maybe, a golden apple tree will grow in the corner of your heart, glowing gently, reminding you of a place where peace lives forever. Many moons passed over the garden of the Hesperides. The days flowed like honey, golden and slow. The nights wrapped the garden in velvet shadows and soft songs from distant stars. Time, here, was not something to chase. It was something to breathe in gently, quietly, like the scent of blooming flowers at twilight. The Hesperides continued their quiet guardianship of the garden. Heracles still sang her bright songs that filled the morning air with warmth. Heracles' laughter still skipped through the garden like a stream finding its way between stones, and Hesperia still whispered stories to the trees, tales that lingered in the air like the final rays of a setting sun. But one night, something changed. The garden felt it, not with fear, but with quiet understanding. Change is not always a storm. Sometimes, it is a soft footstep, or the stillness after a deep breath. It began with Hesperia, the youngest of the three. One evening, as the sky turned a gentle blue-gray and the first star blinked awake, she sat beneath her favorite tree, the one that leaned slightly to the left, as if listening. She closed her eyes and pressed her hand to the earth. "I heard a dream," she said softly. Her sisters turned to her, eyes filled with quiet curiosity. In the dream, Hesperia continued, the golden apples left the tree. Not by hands, not by force, but on their own, they turned into stars. They rose slowly into the sky, and they lit the world below her softly, kindly. Heracles and Heracles sat beside her, resting their hands on hers. "And we?" Heracles asked, her voice like a breeze moving through reeds. "We watched," Hesperia said. "We watched, and we smiled, because we knew." The garden had already spread. The sisters said nothing more that night. They simply sat together beneath the golden trees, listening to the hush of the wind and the gentle heartbeat of the earth. Days passed, then weeks, and the garden, ever peaceful, began to share its quiet magic more freely with the world. The flowers bloomed more brightly than ever before, even beyond the garden's borders. Travelers, lost in the mountains, would suddenly find a tree bearing fruit so golden it warmed their hands even in snow. A mother, praying for her child's peace, would find a single golden petal resting on her windowsill. And far, far away, a lonely child planting a seed beneath the moon would one day watch it grow into a tree whose leaves whispered lullabies. The garden had begun to stretch, not in roots or soil, but in spirit, and one by one, the golden apples did exactly as Hesperia had dreamed. They lifted, gently, from their branches, not all at once, but slowly, sweetly, like candles being carried by invisible hands. They floated upward, glowing not with pride, but with peace. The garden watched them rise. Ladon raised his head and followed them with his calm, endless eyes. He did not growl, he did not cry out. He only hummed a deep, soft note, full of memory and love. One apple, the brightest of all, hesitated. It hung on its branch as if listening, waiting. Then it dropped, not down, but into the hands of the youngest sister. Hesperia held it close, and tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. She pressed the apple to her chest and whispered, "Let the world know peace. Let it dream gently." And then the last apple rose, and with it, the heart of the garden seemed to drift upward, joining the stars. The trees remained, the flowers remained. The air was still sweet and warm, but the golden glow now lived in the sky, a constellation only seen by those who believed in stillness and kindness. People called it many things, but the sisters knew it by its true name: Hope. Aegle, Erythea, and Hesperia still walk the garden paths. But they are quieter now. They tend the plants, they speak to the wind. But they no longer wait for visitors. The garden is no longer a secret to be found. It is a feeling to be carried and laden. He sleeps more often now. Not from sadness, but from peace. The long watch is over. His tail wraps gently around the roots of the oldest tree, and sometimes, when the wind is just right, you can hear his low humming, like the first song ever sung. So if you are ever tired, if your heart is heavy, or your thoughts won't stop spinning, close your eyes, take a soft breath, and imagine it. A garden where the leaves shimmer with kindness, where the breeze carries stories older than time, where the golden apples now shine above you, twinkling in the sky, reminding you that you are safe, you are loved, and somewhere, deep in the quiet world beyond worrying, the garden of the Hesperides still dreams, just like you.